The hunt for the playoffs continues as the series shifts to the Wild Wild West and the Lone Star State, where tonight we welcome you to round 19 of the 4-Wide Racing ARCA Series season and the second race of the playoffs. Welcome to coverage live right here on the KBueno Racing Network. We're atop the Texas Motor Speedway. My name is Kenneth Bueno. Gonna have a lot of fun here tonight as our second race of the playoffs. We continue our route to the Championship 5. One driver has locked themselves in. The rest have to try and fend for the last couple of spots available. And Texas, the way this track is as abrasive as it is on the old surface, it's going to be a challenge for drivers each and every way throughout to try and get the most out of these cars. Well, for this series, we are at a different track. So let's take a look overhead and see where we are first. Overhead in virtual world with our KBueno track map images, of course, provided for our friends over at Google Earth. This is the old version of the Texas Motor Speedway, so this is not the reconfigured 2017 version that you'll find in the iRacing platform. Of course, 1.5 miles still, 2.4 kilometers, located in Fort Worth, Texas, and it is, of course, a very, very tough track. 24 degrees across every single turn, and a very hot track temp, and a very hot surface, a very bumpy surface that can easily take your car for a wild ride. With low downforce, a lot of power, these drivers are going to be fighting for all that they can get in terms of grip here tonight for this race. But the tensions are high, not only between the track, but between the drivers themselves in the playoffs. We'll take a look at our point standing, see exactly how everything shook out after Bristol Motor Speedway last week. Joe Sanchez, with his last lap pass over Lawson Peel, got to victory lane, locked himself into the Championship 5, so he's going to be running significantly for a 4-wide ARCA Series title no matter what. Craig Lownslager is next in line though, but he's only 3 points ahead of that cutoff. It's a three-way tie between 4th and 6th. Kyle Benson, Curtis Kelly, Brandon Banks all tied at 0 points, so you best believe that playoff cutoff is just going to be fluctuating around through most of the night. See exactly what drivers can get some sort of an edge. The last driver all the way at the bottom of the playoff board is only 10 points behind Eric Schaefer, so that does mean that the possibilities are endless for anybody to get into the final 4 spots. They cannot change Joe Sanchez's trajectory over to the Championship 5 at Atlanta later this year. We look at the playoffs, qualifying currently underway, about 20 seconds away before we get to the grid. So in just a handful of moments, we will decide which drivers will start from the front, which drivers will be from the back, and how they will all encompass this virtual Texas Motor Speedway. And as I did mention, this is the legacy version, the older version of the Texas Motor Speedway. This is up to date before the reconfiguration back in 2017 that smoothed out the racing surface, reduced the banking in 1 and 2 to 20 degrees. So in this version of the racetrack, you have 24 degrees all around, and this surface is as old as it was when it was created back in 1996 at the track's opening to NASCAR fanfare. Well, drivers are on the grid right now. That means it is our time to take a look at your starting grid, see exactly where every driver and your favorite driver will be starting here tonight in the second race of the 4-wide ARCA Series playoffs. On pole will be the 34 of Lance Hill, sets the fastest time of 29.840 to lead us to green first. Alongside fellow playoff driver Kyle Benson, he's going to be looking for an entrance into the Championship 5 tonight after winning the Cup Series race last week. He starts on the outside of that very first row. AJ Green in the 48 will be alongside behind them in P3 in row number 2. Scott Healy makes a return to the series in the ARCA campaign. He was the champion last time in the Cup Series season. Good to see him back on track. He starts outside of row 2 over in P number 4. The Ricky Bobby Machine, the Wonder Bread car of Tristan Bailey in the 2 will start inside row 3 and 5th with Lawson Peel, rookie driver, close to the win at Bristol. We'll look for some redemption here tonight from P number 6. Michael Woolley in the 69 will line up inside row 4. League owner Tyler Murray will round out the top 8 in the 8 car before you find Joe Sanchez, who's already locked into the Championship 5. He needs to do no work, but Curtis Kelly needs some work to do to keep himself above the Championship 5 cutoff. He starts just inside the top 10, around that 32nd bracket. Playoff driver Charlie Harcum returns tonight inside row 6 on the grid, with Cody Ivey to his outside in the 12th spot. The number 81 machine, Kevin D'Elia in the 53, goes to the inside row 7 alongside Daytona winner Ken MacArthur and playoff driver in that 97. Christopher Bishop, Craig Lownslager will start the drivers back to 16th, before you find Jason Hastings and Pete Bruni to run number 9 and P20. Cody Kinsey is the last driver to take time, but that is far from over on the grid. Eric Schaefer behind him, Brandon Banks in 21st. He's going to need some work to do from the rear of the field. Austin Reedy will start back in 22nd. Tony Kibbett will be 23rd. CJ Monier 24th. Mark E. Harris will start in the top 25 before you find Michael Newbraw, Brian Dixon, and Brandon Gillis. Your full 28 car field, very large field comparative to what we saw at Bristol with only a strong 17. Tonight we definitely increased that number almost by double, as the pace car will take this round around the Texas Motor Speedway. We'll be ready to go green in just a couple of moments time. If you see the orange spoilers, orange splitters on many of the cars, that is the indication that they are playoff competitors, so you'll be keeping an eye on that all night long. Unfortunately, we do not have that on the ticker, but on the screen, on the cars themselves, you can see their banners, those splitters, to let you know they are indeed fighting for a 4 Wide Racing ARCA Series title. Let's take a look at the weather before we get started here from Texas. It's an air temp of 78 degrees, but the track temp definitely a lot harder under the sun here in Fort Worth. The winds to the east at around 14-15 miles per hour, rather strong for what we usually see in the series. No humidity, no fog. It's a partly cloudy day. It is beautiful in sim to go for racing here from Texas, but on the track with the track temp as slick as it can be with this surface, these drivers going to have a lot to challenge here, a lot of difficulty to keep those cars straight, and of course keep those cars as quick. Pace car makes its way down. It's Lance Hill, Kyle Benson, your first row to the green flag from the Lone Star State for the second race of the playoffs. An easy start for the pole sitter Lance Hill, who easily takes the lead off turn 2 and completes lap number 1 in control of the race. Kyle Benson behind him files through to second, AJ Green to third, and you can see everybody single file. They do not want to waste time going side by side, losing time. They want to make sure that they get into their spot before they even try to make some moves. Actually, never mind. Speaking of which, Michael Woolley in the 69 dive under here back straight away to Lawson Peel out of turn 4. Make the pass complete. That is the entrance for 6. So nice job up the spot there for Michael Woolley. Joe Sanchez, you see him there also trying to take advantage of that number 12 machine. Sanchez, of course, locked in after the win last week at the Bristol Motor Speedway, so he's just running for wins, and pretty much all that is just wins, playoff points. If he can try and extend his gap in playoff points to everybody behind him, gonna mean a lot here as he makes that pass complete. It is rather simple here at the start of lap number 4 as Lance Hill gets around and everybody's single file here. What you're gonna notice is that the lines aren't necessarily as wide at the Texas Motor Speedway on the old surface. Of course, usually you can rock the high side, the middle side, the low side, but with the way the sim has this track, the bottom side, that white line is gonna be the preferred way to get around this Texas Motor Speedway. And so everybody wants to keep their position down low. Not many drivers really want to fend for the outside unless they can really punish the drivers down low via pinching. But as for the moment, Lance Hill just continues to keep his hold, and there he is. A look at Kyle Benson just behind him, and of course Lance Hill did not make last week's race at Bristol, so good to see him back on the racetrack here tonight in his Dodge colors. He's changed his paint scheme a couple of times tonight. Of course, was a driver that was eligible to make it into the playoffs with the win earlier this season at the Pocono Raceway. Of course, with the way things sort of fell through, that 34 is not competing for a 4 Wide ARCA Series title. Nonetheless, right on board, he just continues to keep it over, but the gap has shortened out. Kyle Benson and the gang have caught up just a bit to Lance Hill, despite some of his early lead in the opening laps. Still mostly controlled, everybody in the field not wanting to really risk too much. Actually, Michael Woolley, who's a dive inside from defending Cup champion Scott Healy. Healy having a little bit of connection issues. He's going to fall back. Going to give Michael Woolley the spot. So out of everybody so far in this race, that 69 definitely has been the biggest mover, although big moves technically is +2 right now in the openings part of this race. This is 134 laps here tonight from Texas. This 69 gets way up to the back bumper of Tristan Bailey in that Wonder Red machine. This race is about 134 laps, which means it's rather lengthy. This is around half of what the NASCAR Cup Series runs on Sunday afternoons at the Texas Motor Speedway and at other 1.5-mile tracks. This is NASCAR iRacing Series length, NIS Cup length for most of their series, and some leagues do decide to keep that length very close to them when it comes to these intermediate tracks. And for the 4-wide series, that is no different. There's Scott Healy underneath inside, trying to poke his nose in. He's going to have a challenge here out of turn 2. That's Joe Sanchez going to go to the inside, and Sanchez kind of on the move here alongside Michael Woolley. They've been kind of following each other up through the field, so sooner or later we could see these drivers up in the front, maybe contending for the top spot. But the lap 9, Lance Hill keeps control of the event. So all single file, decked out from top to bottom. Was almost a couple of side-by-side battles throughout the field, and some drivers potentially looking for some clean air. There are 2 playoff drivers right there fighting for that spot into the top 5. That's the 71 of Curtis Kelly, the winner earlier this season at the Myrtle Beach Speedway in dramatic fashion, I should say the least. Got by 2 wrecking cars up at the front. Tyler Murray, AJ Green got by cleanly, and Curtis Kelly went to victory lane after what was a lengthy 200 laps around that Myrtle Beach Speedway. But nonetheless, Curtis Kelly in the Shrek Interstate Batteries machine kind of pounds here on the 46 of Charlie Harcum. And as I mentioned, the gap between these drivers, especially in the playoffs in points, is very, very thin. Charlie Harcum is 3rd right now in the standings, but he's only 1 point ahead of where that cutoff lies. I mentioned 4th through 6th is all tied in points. Of course, that will change over the course of the night, but going into that with these amount of stakes, it does put a little bit of pressure on guys like Harcum to keep their lead afloat, make sure that they don't end up getting pushed out. Let's say these drivers end up making some moves. And speaking of moves, a couple of drivers try to make moves around the front of the field. Here's a pass for 2nd. AJ Green to the inside of Kyle Benson. Passes made. AJ Green, non-playoff driver, will again thrust himself into the top 3. This is sort of reminiscent of the move at the Bristol Motor Speedway, where he had a great time up at the front of the field up until first wreck for him that put him on the back foot. Michael Woolley is also on the move here, made the pass complete on Tristan Bailey. Joe Sanchez kind of fell back a little bit in the midst of Scott Healy getting real loose off of turn 2, so he does lose a spot here to Lawson Peel. Looking under fire here from the 46 of Charlie Harcum, who is looking to keep some points, and of course, as I mentioned, keep the pressure away from him. Scott Healy, who got loose out of the 2nd corner, he's falling back to 21st. There he is in the 64, and as I mentioned, he was a driver that went to the championship 5 last season. Multiple wins in that campaign on the Cup side, was able to walk away with a championship at the Bristol Motor Speedway. So nonetheless, regardless of the performance, it is great to see that number 64 back on track after he was not able to really defend, and he's not going to be able to defend, unfortunately, the Cup Series title from a couple of months ago. Speaking of playoff drivers, here are 2 battling for positions just outside of the top 20. As I mentioned with points, these drivers are in that sort of scenario. 2 different stories, though, for Tony Kibbett and Brandon Banks. Brandon Banks, part of that 3-way tie, up in 6th place in the standings, while Tony Kibbett has to dig back from -8 starting in tonight's event to end up on the championship 5 stage. And of course, there is time left. There is a couple of races left until you get to Atlanta on December 29th. But again, you do not want to really risk being around that top 5 cutoff or being on the back foot behind that top 5. You don't really want to flirt with it. You just kind of want to stay up through the top ranks of the points and or get a win in order to lock yourself into the championship race. And then from there, you don't really have to worry around what's going to happen from the rest of the races throughout. Here's Tristan Bailey inside Michael Woolley. This is a pass for 5th or 4th place rather on the racetrack. Woolley made that pass a couple laps ago, but Bailey now on the defensive side. This time, Tristan Bailey made the pass once again. A couple of drivers now starting to find their comfortability within this Texas Motor Speedway. It is starting to wide open, sort of blow the door wide open for drivers to get into battles with each other and make sure that they can keep themselves clean and potentially fight for positions. In the case of Benson, he needs some of these points. For other drivers, they just want to go for the win. so they'll be as aggressive as possible. AJ Green, though, has not yet caught up to the race leader. He's kept himself stable between himself and that 34, but ever since he was able to get by Kyle Benson for second, it's been a little tough for him to find some of the clean air and find some of the extra speed to carry through and cut in that gap. Now it gets within under 1/10 of a second. So the two non-playoff drivers are battling it out potentially here for the lead. And that could open the door here for Kyle Benson to potentially take some more points. Remember, he is tied for the tiebreaker. So any amount of advantage he can get is one that he'll want. On board AJ Green. This is how he tackles the Texas Motor Speedway. And again, like I mentioned, drivers are just sticking down to the bottom of the track. They don't really want to risk going up high and going through the middle or even running the wall in some sort of cases. Don't want to get into the rubber here on this track. So everybody wants to hug that white line. And in some cases, this is sort of similar to the new reconfiguration back in 2017. Of course, they did remodel this track, repaved it after it got configured a little bit through 1996 and I believe 1999. And then ever since that 1999 sort of repaved, they never did anything for it again except patch a hole up in turn 3 in, I believe, 2010. But then ever since 2017, or up until 2017 rather, they didn't make any changes to the track. Not much was done to the surface. It stayed as a multi-groove, very abrasive surface with hot track temps, and it still has hot track temps in the sim and in real life today with its new configuration. But of course, it changes the way you drive the racetrack in terms of 20 degrees banking 1 and 2. You have to slow down dramatically for those two corners, and then you just kind of have to keep the momentum wound up in 3 and 4 and make sure you stay all the way to the bottom. That has been the key over at Texas the past couple of times. See some smoke over the head. Not sure whether that's a driver in trouble. Doesn't seem to be anybody around. It could have been Brian Dixon who had a little bit of trouble. Now he's falling back significantly. He's now back to 22nd in that pack that I mentioned with Scott Healy and a couple others, including Brandon Banks. And so Dixon may have had a little bit of a moment here. Up to the top 22 is Shannon battle. There's the fight right now. 4 positions up ahead. Scott Healy still with the connection issues, but he is underneath that 25 CJ Winier, so he's going to make that pass complete. Get to the bottom side, and now we have our first yellow flag of the evening. I'm not sure exactly who it might have been or who it could have been here in this case, but there is a driver in trouble. May have been Ken MacArthur who lost a lot of spots there on the restart. We'll try and confirm exactly who that was. Well, there was something definitely that happened, and I believe may have happened around Curtis Kelly. Let's take a look here with Kelly, see if he has any intel on what's gone on. This is riding high at 1 and 2. No problems here for the driver up to the top 10. There's a pass. There's Tyler Murray to make that pass complete. I believe the caution actually does wave around here as they're putting the gas in. They're coming around to the front straightaway. And actually, it was between, I believe, the leaders. There may have been something between the leaders. Kyle Benson and a couple other drivers may have some trouble. And indeed, right there, through the front of the field, a bit of drama as they were all stacking up. Not sure how this all began. Lance Hill got into the wall hard, and then they all stacked up 1 through 4. This is a very weird scenario here from Texas. Take another look at it. We'll take from the chopper cam. Aerial shot, 34 gets into the wall, and in sort of an odd way, everybody follows the 34 up to the wall, and I believe they just all went up at the same time. Indeed it was, 48, 34. The 10 and the 2 also go around here, and then they get some damage on their own right. So this is a very odd wreck. Take a look on board. Lance Hill. This is coming out of the 4th corner. He'll smack the wall here in a couple of moments. Kind of like he knew the car was pushing tight. As the tires start to wear on a slick surface like this, you'd expect them to get looser, but as they continue to push out of turn 4, that wall does come up quick. And that caught many on the wrong foot, including Tristan Bailey. Look on board here. Everybody's going to stack up, and it seems like everybody was on the same path. They were close to hitting the wall, if not pretty much hitting the wall out of the corner, all pushing the same way. Bailey got some huge front-end damage. He's falling back to P6 as a result. and that has really changed up the whole trajectory of the top portion of the field. That does keep Lance Hill up at the front despite some of the damage, but everybody else in trouble. Lance Hill did get the fast repair, went down pit road, but for all the other guys, they've now fallen back significantly. And Kyle Benson, who we mentioned needed a lot of these points in order to keep himself afloat above the top 5, he's now fallen back to beneath the top 25. And he'll come down pit road this time by. I believe he's already used the fast repair here tonight. Actually, he hasn't, but I believe he will indeed get some of the fast repair or indeed get some time on pit road. And hopefully he doesn't go a lap down while the leaders come around this time by. 34 of Lance Hill did or is going to let everybody by. I believe this is an end of line penalty by race control as a cause of the incident out of turn 4. He's going to drop back, let everybody by. So this will, in turn, hand the lead over to rookie Lawson Peel. And similar look from last week at Bristol. These two at the top row on a restart. No, it's not for the end of the race, but Peel and Sanchez were in the same positions when it came down to the wire at the last Great Coliseum. Sanchez was able to get the best of Lawson Peel after Peel struck the wall out of turn 2. So these two are going to hold control of the race. That'll move a couple of playoff drivers up, Charlie Harcum being one of them. He's now going to be inside row 2. Craig Lounslugger, who's been kind of meandering around the top 10, he's now going to have a shot here through P7. There's Curtis Kelly just behind him, Ken MacArthur, Eric Schaefer. It's going to bunch a lot of playoff drivers up, and that may be good, maybe detrimental depending on how you look at it. They've got a splash of non-playoff drivers around them. And if you're looking for the drivers involved in the incident, Tristan Bailey is the highest runner in 4th. Mentioned Lance Hill with the end of line penalty, so he's going to fall all the way back to the end of longest line, which is going to be 24th. Kyle Benson currently rides 28th, and I believe there he is on the track trying to catch up to the field, so he's going to get around there. AJ Green, who was also involved, he's 27th on his way back up. Those were all the 4 laid down here after this caution, very peculiar caution in the opening 25 laps of this race. We're ready to get back to green flag action, though. Of course, 2 Chevrolets at the front. It'll be Sanchez and Peel. Peel going to be the control car here as the pace car runs down to safety of pit road. And the 12 of Peel reaches over through the gears back to green here from Texas. Peel clean through 1 and 2. Sanchez gonna fall through behind, but everybody again single file as they come back through the 3rd and 4th corner. We'll complete this lap on the restart. A couple of drivers have made moves, including Austin Riddy here. I mentioned that he started back all the way in 22nd to begin this race. He's now worked his way up to the top 5, so silent but deadly mover here Austin Riddy is at the front of the field. And with that incident with the main leaders, that did give him extra spots here as he almost looked for a position there under Tristan Bailey. Decided not to, decided to back out just a bit out of the 2nd corner. We'll bring it back, try to use the high side here, drift up just a bit. Car stepping out real bad there at that portion of the track. That's going to open the door for Kevin D'Elia to take advantage, so he'll take position. Really will fall just a bit back. Again, as I mentioned, you just want to stay to the bottom of the track. You don't really want to hang around the middle. You don't want to hang around the top because there are places where the car can really get out of shape. And for Riddy there, that's a prime example. Just trying to ride the middle, trying to press too much on the throttle, and the car just does not want to respond. And that's been sort of the theme, the motto for many of the races here throughout this season. A lot of slick track temps, a lot of very edgy parts of racetracks that have bitten drivers before. I mentioned Rockingham being one of them. Of course, Kansas got a couple of drivers on the loose side. Tonight is no different. As you watch the top 3 slowly pull away from the field. Charlie Harcum, the 3rd one in this train. He's going to like the way he's seeing this because Sanchez, as he dives in for the race lead into turn 3, Sanchez is already locked in, so Harcum, all he has to do is just hang around, watch these 2 battle. Could be extra points here after already some points gained from that recent incident on the first yellow. And Sanchez makes the pass complete, so Bristol winner Joe Sanchez locked into the Champ 5 But that does not mean that he's going to tone down the aggressivity, because the 55 has been on the move. And Joe Sanchez, your race leader as we come to lap 30. So that allows everybody to single file through the top 5. A couple of drivers do push out of turn 4, but not too much of a big deal. As for the driver of the number 34, Lance Hill, and the way that he's trying to push himself up through the field, he's up to 16th now, and he's in a very tight battle here with the likes of Tony Kivet. That's Michael Woolley, who was up near the front of the field on the opening start. C.J. Munier in the 25, rocking a 2010 Jimmy Johnson paint scheme here tonight. In the past couple of schemes that he's ran, and the 34 will clear the 7 this time by and make sure that he's being able to walk up through the field. And one thing that we talked about a little bit, I believe, through last week, something that we have dialed in just a bit, is the fact that non-playoff drivers are in this race fighting with playoff competitors. Of course, I mentioned that the points are very, very tight, and it's going to remain tight throughout tonight's race, but the portion that you do have non-playoff drivers to get through means maybe some potential benefits, but maybe also some negative outcomes that can end up out of the situations as well, because potential benefits means if you've got more non-playoff drivers on track, you've got more points out there to make on the surface. So Eric Schaefer, let's say his case, he's now 10 points, or going into tonight was 10 points behind the top 5 and the cutoff. He's the driver furthest down in the order. He's riding 12th right now. A couple of drivers are in front of him, but if there are more non-playoff drivers on the track, it means that he's got more chances to make passes and in turn make more points to kind of crawl out of the hole that he's made so far through the opening race. The negative part about it is that non-playoff drivers are going for the win. So while you're trying to get around them, they're not giving an inch to you because they don't want to run for points. They're not running in the grand scheme of things. They just want to go for a checkered flag. So they're going to give it all that they have, even if it means fighting with playoff drivers. Even if it's hard and clean, they'll fight you for the spot. And that could be negative because it could wear you out. It could wear out your equipment over the course of a run. And it could, of course, make for some mistakes, could create some crashes, and ultimately it's a huge bunch. And that's something you don't see in a lot of stick and ball sports. When you see playoff races, or playoff events rather, it's only the teams that are in the playoffs. They're not competing with non-playoff competitors every single week, but the racing drivers are. They're fighting around drivers who are in turn going at each other for the championship. So it is a larger scheme at play, and it's a nice point to bring up, especially with the larger field here tonight. Wasn't necessarily as drastic at Bristol just because we only had 17 cars, but with the fact that we have a full 28 car field, it's going to be something to note of once we get throughout this race, as Austin Reedy tries to get underneath a falling Lawson Peel. That's going to be a pass complete for the top 5. As the field shapes out, a couple drivers now battling here as Lance Hill looks at a move here for 15th. AJ Green looking underneath Michael Woolley. Lance Hill going to try to find the same sort of real estate, so he'll look down there. And these two, after striking the wall out of turn 4 not too long ago, again trying to find their way back up to the front of the field. They're going to catch a couple of playoff drivers here. Brandon Banks, Eric Schaefer, Ken MacArthur, Curtis Kelly will be among the drivers that are fighting for the title. So this could mean some losses here out of the playoff drivers if they're not able to quite defend against the likes of that number 34 and, of course, against that 48 machine. But as for Curtis Kelly's sake, I think he will be fine since he's got a good amount of gap. It's about 2.5 seconds between himself and the next driver standing, Ken MacArthur. But Eric Schaefer, Brandon Banks are a lot closer to each other. And as soon as I say that, here comes Green. Make a 2-for-1 pass. Lance Hill trying to follow in the same tracks. He'll get around Kinsey and Banks here out of turn 4. Sanchez continues to lead this race, and as of lap 41, we are pretty far from the halfway mark of tonight's race as the 55. Joe Sanchez locked into the championship 5, continues to lead from the Lone Star State. We'll take a short side-by-side break, but you won't miss any of the action here on the KBueno Racing Network. You're watching round 19 of the 4-Wide Racing ARCA Series from the Texas Motor Speedway.
We've been waiting for this moment. Generations of innovation all coming together in one place. A pedigree of more than 70 years of NASCAR Cup Series history, from the past to the present, from Petty to Earnhardt to Elliott. Today, there's no more waiting. The future of NASCAR is now. Drive the next-gen cars today on iRacing and step into the next generation of racing.
It's the thirstiest time of the year. Hey. Yeah. I have just one query.
Want a Sprite cranberry?
The answer is clear. It's the thirstiest time of the year. Sprite, let's go.
Welcome back to coverage of the 4-Wide Racing ARCA Series live from the virtual Texas Motor Speedway, and our coverage here on the KBueno Racing Network. Kenneth Bueno along you in the commentary booth for the ride, and we have had a pass for the race lead. As soon as we got to break, Joe Sanchez was in control, but After that, couple of moments passed, and Tristan Bailey found the option inside turn 3. And now Tristan Bailey holds control of this Texas race after 50 laps so far out of the 134 set to be completed here tonight. Third place, though, has been a rather big mover. Scott Healy, after a couple connection issues earlier tonight, he has picked the pace up. And now he is up to third after starting tonight just outside of row number 2. So over the long run pace, the defending Cup champion has found his groove here in the Lone Star State. And as he just got past Lawson Peel and a couple others, Healy is now on the charge to try and get around your current race leaders. There was a bit of a scuffle throughout the midfield. A couple of drivers made some moves. A couple of drivers fell back. Kevin D'Elia around the midfield saw a couple of drivers go for some passes. A couple of drivers go for some maneuvers here outside or inside. But nonetheless, the field is mostly thinned out over the course of tonight's race. Also to note, Lance Hill made his way down for pit road service. We're not exactly sure why, but he is now 1 lap down on the track. He needs to catch up to Jason Hastings in the 49 if we do get a yellow in order to get the wave around, and he can be back on the lead lap. But a very interesting situation there out of the 34th. Hill, as he was running well, catching up through most of the traffic and having AJ Green follow him, but he made a move down to the apron, slowed down, and then went for service. So might have been something wrong out of that 34 machine. We'll keep an eye on that. We'll keep tabs on exactly just how Lance Hill fares over the course of tonight's event. Also on the comeback here is Kyle Benson. Of course, his incident out of turn 4 in the opening 25 laps set him near the rear of the field after some extensive damage repair on the pits. But ever since Kyle Benson, now with that pass complete on Michael Woolley and Brian Dixon, he now slips into the top 20 for the first time since that fated crash out of turn 4. So we'll also keep an eye on both Hill and Kyle Benson to see where they lay. And overall, the playoff picture does look rather stable. Ken MacArthur, Tony Kibbett among the drivers that have pretty much found themselves alongside each other for most of the evening tonight, along with Brandon Banks. Now here comes Kibbett to the move on the inside, and he'll make that pass complete. This is just a couple of positions above Kyle Benson. Around the top 16, they both try to carry around the 5 of Mark E. Harris, one of the rookie drivers and one of the newer entrants into the 4Wide Racing ARCA campaign. But there hasn't been much commotion around the field so far here in tonight's race. Pit strategy could definitely be a cause of concern when it comes down to it. After 32 laps right now on a stint, we could expect in a couple laps drivers to signal themselves down for the pit lane, but as of the moment, hasn't necessarily been too apparent. And of course, Lance Hill, really the only driver to go for service among this green flag run. And over the first 25, it looked as though we were going to have a race that was going to extend itself through green flag pit stops. But of course, that crash really halted us down, let everybody go down all in peace without any sort of transitions or any sort of effects throughout the field. And so we may end up in our first round of green flag pit stops here tonight. It's been a rather clean race here from Texas. Tristan Bailey, he's had a couple of good runnings throughout this season. Of course, mentioned Talladega, Daytona as 2 of his standout races. A very good super speedway plate racer, has been able to catch himself among some teammates, work with everybody rather well. But he is yet to find his way to victory lane, and you kind of think different out of the Ricky Bobby machine, considering the fact of how well he's done and how close he's been to victory a couple of times. But nonetheless, Bailey, this could mean a lot for him as a non-playoff driver. This will have no implications on the season championship, but overall, individually, this is going to help Tristan Bailey a ton, much like Cody Ivey's win did for him at the Daytona International Speedway not too long ago to close off the regular season. It won't affect anything playoff-wise, but it does mean a lot for these drivers when they head for victory lane, and especially when it's their first time in victory lane in the series. It definitely brings out a lot of the emotion from many of the drivers in their respective camps. Here's Tyler Murray and Kevin D'Elia. Slight battle here to the top 7. Of course, Kevin D'Elia had fallen back through 6, so now he falls back to Tyler Murray in the 8. And Tyler Murray, of course, a runner in the Championship 5 in the Cup Series last season. As Kevin D'Elia strikes the apron just a bit, we'll lose a bit of time. Murray trying to capture a very good run here in this race, and tonight definitely looks to be the case. Seems as though it's going to be no different there for the driver if he can keep this going and if he can hold on for the lead through many of the laps. Now standing around 36, some drivers at 37 laps on their stint, so probably around lap 40 to 45. That should be when the window opens for drivers to come down pit road. Again, it's 75% fuel. on these ARCA Menard Series Chevrolet Impalas. It's the same deal over on the Cup schedule. So if you're looking at intermediate style races, you should look at around 40 to 45 laps for drivers to stay out on a tank of fuel until they will inevitably have to come down and, of course, take some more service. It's going to be rather interesting, though, through the next handful of laps, because while these drivers are going to end up pitting, if we end up staying green, as Joe Sanchez gets passed by Scott Healy for what's going to be P2 out on the racetrack, once they come down pit road, they're going to have to pit probably around 105 to lap 110, and that means that only gives them about a 25 or so lap spread between that last stop and the end of the race. So there could be some strategy played here on this stop. This may be pivotal here for the end of the event, just if drivers play it right and exactly how they end up doing it. Some drivers want to undercut very well. I mean, Lance Hill, that could be a strategy that potentially will be employed to go out and win this race. He just needs to get the lap back. So there's many factors at play here under green flag circumstances, even though there's not much to really be said around the battles out on track. It is still mostly single file. Nobody really wants to make any moves. A lot of drivers now settling into their rhythm runs. That's something crucial here for a long run pace. And after an abrasive track like this, it does eat up your tires. And we're right on board here with Kyle Benson. You hear the lag off of the throttle and then sort of the reel back in through the middle of the corner. And it's all about, of course, trying to make sure your car doesn't slip. And also make sure your car doesn't push like it did with Lance Hill and a couple of others out of turn 4 earlier on tonight. So there is pretty much a big challenge here, even with the fact that it's really a one-lane racetrack here from the old Texas. You still have to wheel that car. You still have to make sure that your car does not go in any which direction and you don't end up on the back foot here throughout this event. So now drivers are around lap 40 on their stint. Here's a battle between two playoff competitors. That's Craig Lauenslager inside of Charlie Harcum. Harcum has fallen back significantly since the drop of the green flag, and now Harcum may end up coming down pit road, so this may inevitably be one of our first stops for pit road service here. Charlie Harcum a little bit loose coming into the pit lane, but nonetheless, he's going to strike first. Brian Dixon also going to head down pit road as well. So this may lead to some of the leaders to be on the reactionary here and try and see what exactly they're going to do this time by to ensure that they can make it up until the next stint. As for the leader, Tristan Bailey, it's going to be a no-go down for pit road. For Lawson Peel, it's going to be the same, but for Joe Sanchez, it's going to be him down pit road this time by. So Sanchez comes down. A couple of others will follow. That is Curtis Kelly in the 71. End up behind him. There's AJ Green down for the pit lane. A couple other drivers signaling their stops as well. There's Kevin DeLee in the 53 coming down pit road. So at this point, we're seeing a spread of cars coming down for the pit lane. There's Eric Schaefer out, playoff driver. He gets out behind the 8 and the 48 respectively. Charlie Harcum already out. Lance Hill with his earlier pit stop. He's up to 16th, but he's just going to get demolished here by all of the fresh tire power. It's one of the main deficits. You can probably make it on fuel, but when it comes down to tires, it's just going to eat you up. The drivers that are on the fresh rubber are just going to easily come by past you. There's Harcum and Lauenslager. They're side by side for some playoff points and some significant implications to the playoff structure. They're now battling for around 13th, but they are gaining spots right now as the leaders look for pit road. We'll see exactly what Tristan Bailey does. Is this going to be a stop? Answer seems to be no. Still well on the throttle out of turn 4, so it looks like Tristan Bailey is going to try the overcut here. Top 3 is going to follow in the same track, so they're going to try and probably extend this race as far as they can on this tank of fuel. Cody Kinsey's back and forth, so he right now sits the next driver out of the top 3 to also stay out. Mark Harris also has left himself open on the racetrack. Same deal for Tony Kibbett. A lot of these guys going for lap 45 on their stint. Here's a 25, CJ Munier down pit road for the first time, or rather the second time here tonight. And so this may end up forcing a couple drivers to maybe rethink their strategies on what they're going to do. Of course, when it comes to the playoff situation, you're going to start to think about what you're going to do to gain some track position. And even if it comes at the expense of tires, even if it becomes at the expense of fuel, it may be worth it when it comes down to the point standings and at least giving it a shot for the end of the race. Kyle Benson has also gone down pit road. He went down the last time by, so Kyle Benson currently sits in 22nd right now on the racetrack. So a lot of work here to be done for Kyle Benson on the track. But nonetheless, that stop will probably put him on the same route as mostly everybody else. Bailey here will continue to remain on the racetrack, and there's been no challenges for the lead so far. I believe now Cody Kinsey has finally found his way down for the pit lane this time. And so that will shuffle him back out through the grid. A lot of drivers now moving through. I believe Michael Woolley has found himself on pit road. Indeed, there he is in the Real Racing Online number 69 Chevrolet Impala. So he's going to come down for service. And now here is Tristan Bailey. Finally stopped here for the second time this evening. Hop over the bump, hop through the pit road speed limit line. Leader Tristan Bailey, I think, will hand off the lead to Scott Healy. Actually, no, Healy's going to stay out here, or actually follow suit. Mark Harrison third will also extend down to the pit lane. So I believe that'll shuffle the lead just a bit, and I believe it may be Joe Sanchez here just in front of Austin Reedy. These two have pitted. Austin Reedy pitted 10 laps ago. It's 5-lap fresher tires for the driver of the 55. So as of the moment, Joe Sanchez comes across the line, and he'll be your new race leader. And just a reminder, as we stay under green here, under green flag circumstances, we'll remind you that you can join the conversation here up in the KBueno booth. If you've been watching the bottom ticker over on the bottom side of your screen that's been cycling out through multiple leagues, and of course the KBueno logo itself, you can join the conversation by using hashtag AskKBueno. Put your question followed by that hashtag, and we'll be sure to answer it as soon as you send it and to the best of our abilities. That's hashtag AskKBueno for anything you want to know. Maybe you want to know a bit about this strategy. I know I'm not necessarily the Larry McReynolds of the booth. We usually have Francisco do that since he's a little bit better at numbers than I am in the commentary space, but nonetheless can try my best to give some of the analysis on what's exactly going to happen here, how drivers are going to cycle through, and exactly how this race will play out over the course of the next half of this race. And while we're halfway through this event, we'll skip through our race summary, which is always presented to us by Supermix. Our race summary leads to 72 laps complete, 62 laps remaining here tonight from the virtual Texas Motor Speedway. Your leader currently sits as Joe Sanchez, who picked it up not too long ago after the first round of green flag pit stops this evening. We've had a total of 6 lead changes. A lot of them have happened under the yellow flag, of course under the green flag as well. And we've had a total of 1 caution for a total of 2 laps. That's your race summary tonight, presented by Supermix. That 1 caution being around lap 22, where leaders got into the scuffle off turn 4, led by Lance Hill. Was the top 4 that all got collected. AJ Green was the one who got spun around as he tries to defend a Tristan Bailey, a charging Tristan Bailey, a matter of fact, for P6. So that's been the only caution here tonight, but ever since, it's been a rather drama-filled event here tonight from the Lone Star State. You probably would expect a lot more to happen, but it seems as though a lot of drivers only want to keep it clean. That's always a good thing, to have a flag-to-flag affair, or to have a rather green flag affair, while drivers sort it out through strategy and, of course, keeping their cars under them. And that is something that can go into a play when it comes down to racing, when you have a lot of cautions throughout the event. We've seen many of those throughout the season. We've also seen a lot of very substantial green flag runs. When you end up in a caution-filled scenario, you're kind of at a stop and go pace, so the rhythm kind of gets disrupted, and you don't necessarily put your mindset to the long game. When you come down to long green flag runs, you really have to force yourself to be in that long game mindset, or else you're probably going to fall off, like we've seen a couple of drivers do over the course of tonight's event, in terms of tire wear and in terms of course, a limited grip within their cars and overall speed. And with long green flag runs, you're going to end up putting yourself susceptible to those thoughts of, okay, what am I going to do here? How am I going to set up this next green flag cycle? Is it going to stay this way, or am I just going to end up floating around here through the top 10, top 5, or in the race lead? And then how do I plan my fuel strategy for the rest of the event? Despite the fact that it's 40 to 45 laps on a stint, there's still going to be 1 more stop left before this race is over if they stay green. And so how do you position yourself for that? How do drivers do that? That's going to be a tough question to pose here through the last segment of this event, through the second half of this race here tonight from Texas. So Joe Sanchez takes the lead with the tire differential between him and Austin Reedy. Gap has grown to a total of 4 seconds. So Sanchez right now in the middle of 1 and 2. And there's Reedy a couple of seconds back now coming through the first 2 corners. Lawson Peel currently sits third. He's got the freshest tires out of the top 3. But the freshest tires out of the top 5, of course, goes to leader, or former leader rather, Tristan Bailey, who took the lead from Joe Sanchez on the long run. And of course, played the longest strategy on fuel totality. About 46, 47 laps on his stint before he went down for service. Craig Lounslager sits behind him back with 13-lap-old tires. Scott Healy also around the same sort of situation as Tristan Bailey, now 8 laps on their set of Goodyear Eagles. And so we'll see them charge through the field in just a couple of moments. There was the pass there to Austin Reedy, so that driver of the 2 is definitely close here. They're capturing a spot within the top 2 and, of course, trying to chase down your race leader. So while there was a net position change with Joe Sanchez to the front, not necessarily a tire change for the front of the field in terms of that strategy. That should be given to Tristan Bailey based on the freshest tires that he has, but he could get caught up in some instances, maybe burn up his stuff trying to chase through the field more than others. So we'll keep an eye there on the 2. Here's a look out of Lawson Peel's rear bumper. So this is where he stands. Again, he's got some of the older tires in the top 5. So of course, naturally he's going to start to fall back, but Peel is still going to have some speed comparative to Austin Reedy and a handful of others that are trying to cut through the field. And so Peel's going to try and play some ultimate defense here, some Hall of Fame defense. Try and make sure he can keep himself above Tristan Bailey. And if a caution does come out, these drivers have unlimited tire sets on pit road, so going down for service isn't going to hurt at all. And of course, the fuel situation is going to make a lot more sense. We should expect around lap 90 to 95 is around where drivers could go down for pit road, and that will theoretically be their last time. From then on, they would not have to pit for the rest of the event. But as I said, around lap 110, based on the way these drivers went down pit road, lap 115, lap 105, could be the large window in terms of where these drivers want to come down for service, and ultimately how much fuel they put in their car to get all the way to the end. It's going to be a fuel tank, of course, but that means that they can't make it all the way to the final laps of the event, and they'll have to structure their game plan around that. There's Tristan Bailey on board from behind in the Shiba Inu machine from Scott Healy. So there goes the 12. Couldn't play the defense too well, and the 2 of Bailey's going to go by, and it looks like Scott Healy's going to follow in his tracks, but he needs to find the space underneath the 12 first. I believe this is going to be the place right here, 1 and 2. Aim for the inside, and Scott Healy on the freshest tires along with Tristan Bailey is going to challenge once again to Lawson Peel. A little bit of a harder attack here by the 64. Not going to clear out of turn 2, but is going to be able to have the best of line in turn 3 and 4. And so there he goes underneath, and he'll go into the top 3 once again here tonight. Joe Sanchez, his lead now spreads 3.4 seconds and closing. So through lap 85, it's been definitely calm here on the racetrack. Of course, everybody, again, just swiveling around through where they sit in terms of the playoffs and in terms of going for the win here tonight from Texas. There's AJ Green. This may be a pass underneath the number 13 of Craig Lounslager as we ride on board with the Windows machine. 48, the Hanukkah car will have the advantage. He'll dive to the inside, and there he'll go to the bottom. That's going to be the pass for the entrance into the top 5. So AJ Green, regardless of the earlier incident in this race, now stepped it back up on the fresh tires and this strategy call in order to put himself amongst some of the main leaders here in tonight's race. And along with today, here on Tuesday, will of course be the release of the new iRacing build. 2022 Season 1 has finally come out. There were a lot of delays from Amazon World Services servers being shut down for the day on the North American East side, so iRacing took a long time waiting on the AWS system to fully restore back to 100% operability. And of course, iRacing released a lot of new content, released a lot of new internal stuff in the sim to kind of change the way the iRacing sim is played here on the service. Not necessarily with these cars, the ARCA and R2's cars, because they had some updates to their new damage model. When it comes to wrecking across the track, they changed some things to fix some of the small errors when it comes to that system. But a lot of the new content highlighted through 2022 Season 1 was, of course, the release of the Mercedes W12 F1 car from the Mercedes-AMG Petronas team that you see take over championships and take race wins in the current Formula 1 campaign. They will have a release of the 2022 competitor in the next generation of Formula 1 racing cars, but of course that will come in a couple other seasons. Some other cars released through the season build include the Honda Civic Type R, the Hyundai Elantra NTC, the TCR machines that compete alongside the Audi RS LMS or RS3 LMS car on the service. So they add another duo of cars to join on that Audi, on the Audi car, which at to this point was just a single car class. And so having some companions there with the Honda Civic and of course the Hyundai Elantra is going to be the line for Hyundai. That meant a lot for them to be in the sim for the very first time with a race car. It's going to be exciting to see a lot of drivers pull out their schemes, pull out their cars for that season, for any campaigns that utilize that car. Of course, in track's newest build or release was the Knockhill circuit, the track all the way up in Scotland, one of the most famous circuits across the world and in Europe. And of course, a rescan of Watkins Glen. Unfortunately, we've already been to Watkins Glen, so we're not going to be able to see the full effects of the new 2021 version of that track. But if you are on the iRacing sim, definitely give it a try. New look for the 2021 campaign, the 2022 Season 1 build. And after long overdue requests by many of the fans to restore that track and of course give it the updates that it does need, they went around, rescanned that track earlier this year, and so that's on the service. Meanwhile, there goes the fresh tire brigade for both Tristan Bailey and Scott Healy. They're going to both make the pass here on Joe Sanchez as they almost tagged the wall out of turn 4. And for Sanchez, it was like this was coming, ending up into what may be the potential final stop here from the Texas Motor Speedway. So Tristan Bailey takes the lead here on lap 92 of 134. Still mostly caution-free after the first one. We're still waiting on one more pit stop to get to the end of this race. You're watching coverage of the 4-Wide Racing ARCA Series in round 19, the second race of the playoffs from the Lone Star State, the virtual Texas Motor Speedway, right here on the KBueno Racing Network.
iRacing is a sim racing game that combines a true-to-life racing experience with an online community of virtual racers from all around the globe. iRacing offers a multitude of officially licensed cars and tracks, laser scanned with millimeter accuracy. Their car models and mechanical systems are based on real-world physics, engineered in cooperation with manufacturers and race teams. Their skill license system ranges from rookie to pro, ensuring members are always pitted against those with similar skill sets. Members are able to sign up for a weekly race series, compete in time trials, host a private race with friends, and participate in racing leagues created and run by the community. With over 170,000 members, iRacing works in partnership with renowned motorsports organizations like NASCAR to deliver virtual races based on the real-life NASCAR Cup Series, as well as many other series on the NASCAR ladder. iRacing also features team racing, providing a variety of options for members to create and manage their own teams, race with friends or real-world teammates in full-length endurance events like the 24 Hours of Daytona, Spa 24, or the Bathurst 12 Hour. Additional partners include IMSA, World of Outlaws, Supercars, and IndyCar, allowing members to race in their very own Indianapolis 500, Bathurst 1000, Chili Bowl, and many more iconic events. This is iRacing, delivering the most authentic racing experience short of getting into a real race car. Sign up today at iRacing.com.
Battle for the lead is on in round 19 of the four-wide racing ARCA series from the virtual Texas Motor Speedway. Kenneth Bueno in the commentary booth as we head over to the final 34 laps of this race. Again, drivers are not able to make it on fuel from here to the very end. And while we were under break, if you watch the side-by-side to the left side of your screen, you saw the 64 make an attempted pass for the lead, got close, made the pass complete, offered Tristan Bailey to come right back on the other end as Kyle Benson made a daring move down pit road right in front of the leaders. He'll join Christopher Bishop, playoff driver Michael Newbrough down the pit lane, but that was close between Benson as everybody has come down. It looks like Eric Schaefer, Brandon Banks, Mark Harris, Brian Dixon. So many drivers have found their way down to the pit lane, but they just continue to battle for the lead. And now at a stand, are these two going to come down pit road anytime soon? Or are they going to wait it out to the last second? Joe Sanchez is the next driver in tow. He's going to slow down for pit lane. Lawson Peel is going to do the same. The leaders, though, have continued to stay out. And as close as they are, it may be very concerning as to how they're going to head down pit lane. Bailey gets the apron. It's going to slide up, grab the room for the 64, and it's side by side for the lead. Back to turn 3. Now you got to wonder how the pit road sequence is going to look like. Bailey, though, from the middle is going to be able to pinch Healy enough, keep his speed as low as possible on the white line. And Bailey still plays the defense. He's going to be able to continue to lead this race. Now here comes third place AJ Green to come down for service. It's his most likely last time down the pit lane for tires and fuel. And again, if we have no cautions from here on out to the end, this is going to be the final call here to make it all the way to the checkered flag. Here's Tristan Bailey again. Another defensive mover on Scott Healy. They're going to look for pit road, but not go down. And it's been awfully tough for these two drivers to even look close to pit road. Now Charlie Harkin will come down. This is 40 laps on his stint. Cody Kinsey is next to follow. I did say it, if we stayed green, it was going to pose these drivers in a very interesting scenario that they could not make it. And there for him, he's going to make that stop. Now Healy looks down low again for the battle for the lead. Bailey's going to hit the wall. He's going to stay up there by himself. And again, he'll strike it. And this is a huge mistake for Tristan Bailey. He continues to remain up there out of traffic. Is this going to cause a yellow? I'm not exactly sure. He has yet to find himself back on the racing surface. And as he slows to a stop, the field is going to completely go by. Scott Healy is going to clear for the lead. Bailey's finally going to reach down to the apron. And it may be race over for the Wonder Bread machine. This was in a heated battle for the lead of the race, as Bailey moved it just a smidge too high on the track. It's been a problem for drivers on tires. He knew he was going to hit the wall, laid off the throttle well before he got in there, and the car just did not want to get off of the outside retaining wall. Let Scott Healy escape, and as Bailey came to a slow, now he's out of the racing track. His day is for sure over tonight from Texas. And what a scenario that was. Scott Healy, race leader, comes down pit road for the final time tonight. Cody Kinsey will assume the race lead. Joe Sanchez will follow suit. Kinsey is yet to pit. Now here he comes. Joe Sanchez is on 4-lap old tires. So if we stay green, this could potentially be the call that changes the outcome of this race in its entirety. Now Scott Healy now a total of 10 seconds behind Cody Kinsey. And he is closing fast. Now down to 5 seconds. Cody Kinsey still on pit road. The pass is going to be complete there for second. But for the race lead, now 5.5 seconds. Joe Sanchez here going to lap a playoff car. Kyle Benson, who has not had a great night since his opening crash with the leaders at lap 24, or around lap 25. He's going to let by for the race leader. Benson's going to go a lap down. And for Joe Sanchez, it's all about how he can hold for the rest of the race. And he'll be a 2-time winner in a row. It'll be his 5th on the campaign. And it'll only add to the playoff tally going into Atlanta. There's a look on board from Brandon Banks. This is him sitting in 5th. Banks came into this race tied on the cutoff for the top 5. He's going to beat Benson outright. For Charlie Harcum, he also is beating him by a handful of points. So Brandon Banks, if he stays where he is, could be the benefactor of all of this, and that could mean an entrance in the championship 5 for the first time for him. But now coming to 24 laps to go here tonight from Texas. Sanchez 4.4 seconds ahead of the 64 of Scott Healy. He's right on board there with Scott Healy in the 64. Now the question is posed, what does Sanchez do here? Does he continue to play defense? Does he let the 64 by on tires? Or what does he do in the final laps of this race? Again, he's locked into the championship 5 via that win at Bristol last week. So there's no worries if he does not go to victory lane. That doesn't change the outcome of his championship trajectory. But if he lets Scott Healy go by, that means the playoff points are seemingly non-existent. That buffer to the drivers in the next round is going to be obsolete in the championship 5. And so Healy would be behind. Actually, to correct myself, no bonus points will be allowed into the championship 5. So I guess forget whatever I said there. It's going to be whoever finishes first ends up as the champion. But for Joe Sanchez, I mean, this is going to be extra momentum, no doubt, if he's able to walk to victory lane here tonight. Scott Healy, though, has never attended a full-wide race in this entire season. Last time we saw him was in the Cup campaign when he won the championship at Charlotte Motor Speedway. So in his first ever attempt in this series, how does he play this? Does he try to be aggressive? Does he try to be a little conservative on his tires for this last run? What does he do to further instill a race win here for the KBueno Chevrolet? Couple cars in lap traffic, CJ Munier being one of them. It was a trio of cars. They had already gotten around Kyle Benson in the 10 machine. There's Christopher Bishop. His Starbucks machine now goes a lap down. That pushes now the top 10 under the lead lap. 11th on back is a lap down or more tonight. AJ Green currently holds the top 3. But as for the race lead, it's now crunched down to a total of 1.9 seconds in closing. There you can see from the rear bumper of Joe Sanchez's machine, a golden Shiba Inu 64 closing in rapidly. And we talk about how abrasive tracks are, how they make a difference in tires. This track in Legacy, Texas is no different as the yellow flag comes out for the second time tonight. And it's a crash between Ken MacArthur and a handful of others. MacArthur, a playoff driver, in deep trouble out of turn 4 on the front straightaway. As the leaders came by, they had to ham on the brakes to make sure they didn't get into him. And that completely seals any opportunity of Scott Healy to catch Joe Sanchez purely based on tires alone. We'll take a replay and see how this unfolded. It was between himself and Cody Kinsey. Take a look. This is out of turn 4. MacArthur loses speed. Kinsey goes to the bottom. It may have been a wall strike here. Actually, no. Just gets into him out of turn 4. Comes across a little bit low. Swings up high. 93 finds the space. 97 tries to get out of the wall. And then he tags along the 93. Goes for the spin. And that's easily a yellow flag. A lap 116 to 134. There was Curtis Kelly to go by. And Scott Healy got into it. Scott Healy, out of nowhere, ham on the brakes as MacArthur tried to slow it down or to keep it back under pace. Oh, this is tough. There's the bang right there from Scott Healy. What a way to get our second caution of the evening. Healy locks up the brakes, slows the car down. Sanchez barely gets away from it. He almost got hit by Michael Newbra on the way back up the track. And of course, Scott Healy does have a faster pair, but his night could be set in stone. There he is on the pit road. There he gets his faster pair, but he loses 1, 2, 3 spots on the pit lane. Joe Sanchez is the only one to keep himself stable with no damage. It's CJ Munier, AJ Green to follow suit. For CJ Munier, 15-lap old tires. We'll see if he stays out, but AJ Green is going to now have the advantage here on Scott Healy. Brendan Banks is going to come out 5th. Kevin DeLeo will be back to 6th. Mark Harris, Tyler Murray, Curtis Kelly, Austin Reedy will file out the drivers through the top 10. After a wild caution near the start-finish line, puts Joe Sanchez at a crossroads to catastrophe, but he survives. Scott Healy not so lucky, although he's still going to be in 3rd, still with a shot to win tonight's race. So everybody packs in for just a second time tonight. Again, our first caution came around lap 20 to 25 when the leaders, all 4 of them, got into the outside wall. AJ Green was one of those drivers who got collected in it after he was rolling in 2nd behind Tristan Bailey. And then ever since, we've been waving the green flag from there on out. It's been a fuel strategy race. Drivers were on the cusp of making their final pit stops to make it on fuel. They're still able to make it on fuel now. Tires, though, the biggest concern. And this was their opportunity. This caution here, with around 16 laps to go to decide the fate of this race. Everybody's going to be on equal footing here, so no difference on tire discrepancy apart from, I believe, CJ Munier just went down the pit lane, so he's going to get some fresh rubber, and that's going to change up the top 3 once again. But this has completely changed the game on what's going to happen here, and it means the drivers are just going to be on an all-out flare for the end of tonight's event from Texas. There are a couple drivers getting the wave around. That's Lawson Peel, Craig Lautenslager in it as well in that group. There's Charlie Harcum down in the pit lane. Cody Ivey also going to get the wave around here this time. It's been a rather rough night up and down for both Charlie Harcum and Craig Lautenslager, who sits 20th and 21st. Even worse so for playoff driver Ken MacArthur. He sits 22nd. And he is the last running playoff driver in this event, although he is out behind the garage. He's going to finish at a dismal 22nd in tonight's race. And after being 6 points behind the top 5 cutoff, going into tonight's event, It's going to push him even further back when we go to the next week's event. And we'll see how things fare when it comes down to that next track. And there's going to be probably some drama for next week's race. It'll be a short track thriller, our second short track race of the playoffs. It'll be the Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway in the nighttime, 169 laps there. Gonna be a crazy race there in Tennessee. We'll see how that fares out. But as for the end of this race, Sanchez quick back to the green flag, green in second, and now Healy charges underneath for turn 1. Only cars side by side include Cody Kinsey and Michael Newbraw, but for the leaders, they've remained single file. And now, how did these drivers play the final 14 laps of this race? It is somewhat of a run to wear out the tires, but it is rather short, and caution flies once again. More trouble here, and looks like Michael Newbraw is in it, up against the outside barrier. There's a wheel completely almost torn off of the right side of the race car. And as I mentioned, trouble for playoff drivers. This is adding on to the list with the driver of the 56, Michael Newbraw, who gets into trouble, it looks like, out of turn 4. Take a look at the replay here underneath Tyler Murray. He was side by side and actually gets into the 8. Not sure whether he got into him or whether Tyler got loose all by himself. Take a look here from on board of the 56. Actually, Murray just lost the car, so Newbraw had no play in it. Just kind of the innocent bystander there. Got into the outside wall, and of course the spin from Murray results in the caution being thrown there. He comes to a stop. I believe there was a third car into play as this as well. It was actually Eric Schaefer, so another playoff driver gets into it. Cody Ivey with a hard hit to the driver of the 22. Take on board with him. This is not going to sound good at all. And nowhere there for Ivey to go, just aiming to split the middle at high pace, and that's not necessarily the best maneuver in the final seconds, and Ivey just had nowhere to go as he ends up heavily damaged, 6 laps down. He had already used the faster pair tonight, so his race could definitely be over here tonight from Texas. He'll stall it down to the pit lane, and I believe he may end up staying there or just ending up pulling it behind the garage and calling it an evening here from the Lone Star State. So with that, we end up with our third caution tonight, picking it up, and Scott Healy made the move on the restart, found underneath the space under the 48 of AJ Green. So Green did not get as good of a jump on the restart. Opened the door there for Healy, but now Healy is going to be in the opposite end of the spectrum. Instead of following Joe Sanchez and being able to scrap under drivers on the outside, now he's going to be the driver on the outside. So he's now going to have to try and guess as to where Joe Sanchez is going to go, how he's going to go back and attack this restart. And so we could potentially see a battle between AJ Green and the 64 of Scott Healy. Again, playoff drivers, non-playoff drivers sprinkled throughout this entire field. Of course, Joe Sanchez, as we mentioned a couple times tonight, winner last week at Bristol, so he's locked in. This is going to give him an extra win if he can get to victory lane tonight. It'll be his 5th win on the campaign. Scott Healy, a non-playoff driver. This is his first appearance since earlier this year in 2021 at the Charlotte Motor Speedway when he won the Cup Series title. He's looking for his first win in his first ever start, much like Brian Smith did earlier in the campaign. AJ Green, also not a playoff driver for Stock Motorsports. He does not have an effect on the playoffs. He's just going for a win as well. And then you get to Brandon T. Banks, who comes into this race right at the tiebreaker of that cutoff around the top 5. A win for him would mean an entrance into the Championship 5. That will mean a lot. But even then, a good finish here tonight from Texas will surely set him apart. We'll give him the advantage when we come to Nashville next week on December 14th. Kevin D'Elia, also non-playoff driver. He does not have a win this season. Mark Harris joined this league near the latter half of the regular season and could find his way to victory lane to get his first win. Curtis Kelly will be looking for his 2nd win of the season and an entrance into the Championship 5 as well. Lawson Peel looking for redemption after Bristol last week. CJ Winier back to 9th. He's looking for his first ever win. Cody Kinsey looking for his first ever win in the top 10. And the next playoff driver you have to look for is the 14th place car of Tony Kibbett in the 7. It's going to be a longer shot here for him to get to victory lane, but anything could happen. So field spread out, double file across each and every row from front to back. Joe Sanchez choosing the outside lane actually this time on the restart. So who follows suit on that first row? Scott Healy will be underneath him in second. It'll be AJ Green, Brandon Banks to line up the drivers back in row 2. Kevin DeLeo, Mark Harris back in row 3. Curtis Kelly and CJ Munier will roll out row number 4. And then rounding out the 5th row and the top 10 so far is CJ Munier and the 93 of Cody Kinsey. 10 laps to go when they reach the stripe here tonight from Texas. Sanchez has led a majority of this race. Healy looking to take it all away and be a driver with 100% win percentage in the stat sheet. And he'll be looking from that on the inside of row 1. Gonna have to guess where Joe Sanchez goes. Out of turn 4. Pace car will make its way down to the safety of pit road for what may be the final time. Sanchez back to the jump. We're back under green from Texas. Much like the last restart, Sanchez is able to get the early jump, and he's able to clear well over second place Scott Healy. Brandon Banks gets the best of AJ Green, so now he slips into third. For the first time tonight, he's going to roll the high side, try to defend, give AJ Green a run for his money, but it's Joe Sanchez coming across 10 laps to go. Gap is around 0.1 seconds. And Scott Healy looking to charge as much as possible. Again, Scott Healy has been rather strong on both short runs and long runs, but he has yet to find it to get to the front. Apart from that battle near the end of the race with the 2 of Tristan Bailey. Back into turn 3, there's AJ Green making the move for third. Banks is going to follow up high. He'll lose 2 positions here. That's Lawson Peel. But Sanchez come across 8 laps to go from Texas. That time by, he was a couple hundredths faster, so Sanchez may be looking in that rearview mirror. The Shiba Inu Chevrolet is on his way to the front, and time is running out. That time through 3 and 4. A bit faster went Scott Healy. Sanchez is going to roll up the track. Healy's going to grab another piece of time there just behind the 55. This time 7 to go from Texas, and it's Sanchez trying to play Hall of Fame defense to the driver, the 64. And now here he comes, 64, tries to look the inside, tries to force the 55 wide, and it does nothing at all. 55 is Sanchez going to hold for the race lead, but that's a warning sign. He knows just how fast that 64 is. Coming to 6 laps to go from Texas. Does Sanchez hold on, or does Healy find a way to the bottom in 3 and 4? All still single file. A couple of drivers went side by side. Now AJ Green has a potential spot here for third. So if these two continue to battle through, that could open the door here for the 48 to get his first win on the season. At turn 4, here comes 64 with a bit of pace. Not going to find it yet through turns 1 and 2. And again, we'll reach back to the line with still a decided 1, 2, 3. Coming to 5 laps to go. And for Sanchez, he knows what's on the line. It's just a race win and extra momentum into the Championship 5 at Atlanta. Healy trying to take the bragging rights, let the field know that he is still a strong contender. This time, 4 left from the virtual Texas Motor Speedway, and Sanchez finds another bit of time, that time almost a full 10th faster than the 64. You gotta wonder what Healy has done, whether he's used up his tires a little bit too much, but just could not find the pace to get around the 55, or if he's just waiting for the final handful of laps to make this pass complete. Pia was caught up for third, up to AJ Green, so there could be a fight there, but this time only 3 laps left from Texas. Only a couple miles left to go, and that time by, Healy was faster, so Sanchez loses a bit of speed here. Healy to the bottom, bit of a blocking maneuver by the 55. He'll almost dive to turn 3, hang it back low. And it all matters for the exit. This time, 2 laps remaining from Texas, and the field has not been decided. Look at AJ Green and Peel. Catch him drift up here into turn 1. Healy trying as much as possible to break the 55 out of every corner. Has found momentum a couple of times, but just has yet to pick the nose in or make a complete pass. And the time is running out. Green and Peel are starting to catch up. They may play a fight into the race win, but as the top 4 spread themselves apart out of turn 4, white flag is in the air for Joe Sanchez from Texas. Sanchez looking for win 5. Healy, Green, and Peel looking for win number 1. It's been a wild race so far. Bit of chaos now. Healy tries to move to the inside. 55 blocks. 64 gives the bumper. And around almost goes Sanchez. He's going to go around for good. They're all wrecking. But it's Scott Healy out of the 4th corner to win at the final corner from Texas. What a battle to the finish. Cody Kinsey ends up in 2nd. Kevin D'Elia finalizes the top 3 somehow. And after Sanchez had led the majority of the final laps, gets the bumper in 3 and 4. And he comes home to finish in 9th. As Scott Healy found the maneuver, you see the bit of a scratch there on the left front. As he ends up victorious tonight from Texas. We'll await word from race control on whether that move was legal. But as for the driver of the 64, it's a win. After finally coming back after winning the championship, his last race win came at the virtual Phoenix Raceway in the Cup side a couple of months ago. As Sanchez gives a congratulations. I believe he already knows he's locked in, so no worries from there. But the 64 celebrates after an aggressive win here tonight from the Lone Star State. Let's take a look at the replay. Let's see exactly how this all unfolded. And with the race leader, Scott Healy, led the door and pretty much shoved it in after the 48 and the number 12 are catching up. There's AJ Green and Lawson Peel. This is coming through the final laps. And out of many laps before this, Healy finds the run out of turn 2. That's the largest one he's got yet. Sanchez gives the bumper, gives to block. 64 gets into him, gives him the spot to save it, but just that extra tap sends the 55 around. 48 and the 12 go hard into the wall. Now to the final send. There it was. The 64 almost lost control of his Chevrolet, but he was able to save it, and he comes across to victory. Look at Cody Kinsey here. This is how he finished his 3rd tonight. All the way near the rear, hanging back in, sees the smoke up ahead, and just sends it through. Actually, codes right through. Scott Healy comes away successful from the virtual Texas Motor Speedway. He's able to burn it down. And as of that, we'll take a look at your full field results, exactly where every finish or every driver really finished here at the end of tonight after 134 laps. No green, white checkers to end this one in overtime. Scott Healy, your race winner for the first time since Phoenix Raceway a couple of months ago. Cody Kinsey manages to scrapple for 2nd. Kevin D'Elia ends up with a top 3 here tonight in that 53 Ford Fusion. Curtis Kelly comes across the line in 4th. 5th place will belong to playoff driver Brandon T. Banks. So there's a lot of smiles to be had for the 88 Banks, who could most definitely swipe up to the top 5 in the point standings along with Curtis Kelly there. Mark E. Harris in the 5 machine comes home in 6th. CJ Munira ends up in the top 7. AJ Green on the final battle for the lead ends up in 8th after that crash. Sanchez, after the spin in 3 and 4, ends up 9th. Lawson Peel caps off the top 10 just 1 lap down. Rest of the drivers stand at 1 lap down or more. Austin Reedy will finish 11th. 42, Christopher Bishop will manage 2 laps down, and 12th, Tony Kibbett will come home in 13th. Kyle Benson, after early strong pace, could not find it near the end after that incident in the opening segment of the event. He ends up 14th. Jason Hastings picked up the pace 4 laps down in 15th. Eric Schaefer, a little bit of a struggling night here for that 22. He'll finish 16th. 17th will belong to the 13 of Craig Lounslogger, 7 laps down. Charlie Harcum will be 18th. 19th will belong to Ken MacArthur. Rounding out the top 20 will be Lee Gunter, Tyler Murray in the number 8 machine. Michael Newbraw caps off the top 25 here. Cody Ivey, Tristan Bailey, Lance Hill, Michael Woolley to 25th. Brian Dixon ends up in P26. 27th to Brandon Gillis on the line. Pete Bruni, 94 laps down, be the final driver in tonight's full 28 car field from Texas. So as Scott Healy mans his celebration, it'll be our time to take a moment to talk with the driver of the 64 and let him explain how all of this happened to walk away with his first win ever since coming to victory lane at Phoenix not too long ago. We'll bring in the driver of the 64, and Scott, I think it was a warm welcome from the league when you ended up with your name in the session saying connected. It's your first appearance in the 4-wide series. It's your first appearance in the ARCA series this entire season, but your first appearance overall since when you won the championship in the Cup campaign. I think first thing I want to ask you before we get to your return, how was it like in the final laps battling with Joe Sanchez? Give us your explanation there. Give us your thoughts.
It was definitely wild. I was trying to get around him very cleanly, and at the last lap, he just wanted to throw a huge block all the way to the bottom. There's nothing I could do. I was just trying to push him to get, tight, to go up high. Never meant to get him loose or anything. Just try to move him up the track, and it went the opposite way. Didn't mean to do any of that. So I apologize to the leader for doing that. But at the same time, it's a race, and I'm racing for a win. So.
And for that race win, of course, you put it all on the line. And coming to the final segment of the race, it looked like you had the lead in lock when you had the freshest tires above Joe Sanchez. You were catching him, but all of a sudden the yellow came out. How was sort of the mentality there behind the wheel when that yellow began to wave? Because it looked like from the first caution, it was all green flag racing. Looked like the strategy to make it to the end was already complete. But then you get a yellow to kind of break things up and create this end of a race.
Yeah, when the yellow came out, I was definitely like, oh, here we go. Get a battle now. So everyone's going to be on fresh tires, even tires. And we're all going to race hard for that win. Before that yellow came out, I know it was hauling butt. And when it happened, cars were going everywhere. I was trying to brake and smacked into one of the cars. So I was like, oh, here we go. More mistakes, even though I've done like 20 mistakes on pit road. I already got smacked by a wrecked car. So, but overall, I mean, it was a good race. Having fun with Tristan and all the Murray Reedy guys. So, shout out to all of them as well.
So you end up with the victory after your return, after a long absence here in the 4-wide campaign, whether it be Cup or ARCA. I mean, how does it feel to return in your first attempt and immediately go to victory lane? Because after the Cup season, I mean, we were wondering what was left of Scott Healy for the next season. Unfortunately, you weren't able to make the full campaigns up to this point. So how does it feel for your welcome into 4-wide, back into the series, to be a race victory out of all things?
Pretty damn good. I mean, I feel pretty great, having fun with all my friends, having fun with you guys, having fun with all the other drivers. Some of them I haven't raced with, a couple of them I have in the past. Unfortunately, due to work, I couldn't be able to race the season because I'm here. I'm actually on COVID protocol, so I'll be home for about a week. So I'll probably be racing tomorrow as well. I'm feeling fine. I mean, I just know somebody who had it, so now I have to be quarantined for a little bit. But other than that, I mean, it's pretty great.
Of course, it feels good to go to victory lane no matter how the circumstance, and you end up making the pass in the final laps to end up winning here tonight from the virtual Texas Motor Speedway. Scott, before we let you go to celebrate this victory here, want to thank anybody that makes it all possible, any teams, sponsors, or anybody that makes it happen for you each and every week.
Yeah, you guys, I miss talking to you guys. You guys do a great job broadcasting. Murray Reedy Racing, Kirk Creek, Valvoline, Friends, Family, and that's who I like to thank today.
Well, Scott, we definitely wish you back a warm welcome here to the 4Wide campaign. Definitely missed seeing you out of the track. Hopefully we get to see you some more throughout either the rest of this season or the next couple of seasons in the future. But for now, Scott, congratulations on your win tonight from Texas, and we'll let you celebrate here from the Lone Star State.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Scott Healy comes across the start-finish line. He is your race winner here tonight from Texas, of course, via that last lap pass. Good to see him back in the series tonight, and at least from the booth, it looked unexpected to see his name pop up after so long that he had not been in the series, but nonetheless, so great to see him back, no matter the finish, but turns out to be a race win, so I think it means even more. It means even a sweeter ending there for the driver of the number 64 machine in that KBueno car. We'll try to track down Cody Kinsey, see if we can get him into the waiting room. We'll see if we can get him into the broadcast booth as he comes home in P2 tonight. Cody, I know that you were pretty far from the main leaders by the time this race was closing. The smoke starts to appear in 3 and 4. What's your mentality behind the wheel at that point?
Oh man, I just held it to the floor. Honestly, watch the replay. I think I glitched through a car, but that was my plan, just to hit the high side and roll with it.
You end up rolling with it. It all comes to your advantage, and you end up in P2. But I want to talk about this race overall. I mean, looked like a lot of strung out battles. Pit road was looking to be very crucial when it came to the end before one of the final yellows came out, and you were kind of in the mix of it all, just riding around the top 15, top 10 after starting 19th. Did you feel like there was a plan in place for the final at least 24 or so laps when you guys made that final pit stop to close off the fuel deal?
Yeah, on that last caution, if I didn't start at the tail end, I think I would have had something for him. The car was fast all night. I got cut off by a lap car trying to get up there too on the front stretch. Just some unfortunate circumstances.
Nonetheless, at the end of this one, after the final restart and the final run to the finish, you end up in P2 tonight for the 93. Cody, before we let you go from Texas, is there anybody you just want to thank for making this possible? Any teams, sponsors, or just anybody you just want to highlight for this race?
You and Tyler Murray and the guys for putting this on and streaming it. Drinker Bros Racing, we're racing online.
We certainly appreciate the time, Cody. Want to thank you for taking the time, of course, and congratulations on the second place finish here tonight from the Lone Star State. Of course, wishing you the best of luck and hoping to see you next week when we tackle Nashville.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
It's Cody Kinsey, who ends up in P2 tonight after a wild chase through the field in the final corner. And Cody Kinsey in the 711 machine ends up on the second step of the podium. We'll bring around the final driver of our interview section here tonight. It's the Crown Royal Ford Fusion, the 53 of Kevin D'Elia. Kevin, you started 13 here tonight, had a good race up to the front around the top 5, top 10, but then it comes down to the final restart. Give us your thoughts on how that was like and what you were trying to do to make sure you could get to the finish in first.
I mean, I think at the end of the day, I don't think I really had a choice. Those guys in front were really, really fast. I mean, I was just trying to hold my position, and I'm not in the playoffs, and I wasn't going to go up there and really mess with the guys who were in the playoffs. But that last wreck, I guess it kind of helped me.
Of course, gives you the third place finish that you have here tonight from Texas. But I mean, for this finish, as a driver who entered the series a little bit later in the season, of course, playoffs was not going to be an eligibility. But as a rookie driver, I mean, does this mean anything special for a third place finish? Does it kind of hit a little bit closer to home, knowing that out of your stint so far in 4 wide, whether it be from the Cup Series and the ARCA Series, this is a top 3 finish for you tonight?
I mean, yeah. I mean, it's definitely pretty awesome. And, you know, I actually like Texas. I like the new version better for some reason. But, you know, we'll see what we can do tomorrow night and see if we can get a first place out of it.
Of course, tomorrow night, going to be tackling the new Texas, so maybe some differences, maybe some similarities. Who knows, Kevin? But nonetheless, a big finish here in third place. Before we let you go, though, here tonight from Texas, is there anybody you just want to thank for making all of this possible? Any teams, sponsors, or just anybody you just like to give the love and shout-outs to?
I mean, I got to thank all the guys I race with, you know, AJ Green, Curtis Kelly, Lance Hill, Mark Harris was with us tonight. You know, those guys definitely helped out a lot and bouncing ideas off each other.
Well, Kevin, I want to thank you so much for taking the time with us. I want to congratulate you on the 3rd place finish here tonight from Texas. And, of course, wishing you the best of luck, not only tomorrow in the Cup event, but for next week's affair here in the ARCA Series as well.
Thank you, sir.
That's Kevin D'Elia, top 3 finisher here tonight from Texas. That wraps up our segment of the driver interviews. And for Scott Healy, coming back to the series, coming back with a race win, definitely a big moment there as he tried to go for the lead, sent it deep into 3 and 4, and as they came crashing out of the final corner, Scott Healy able to get the win. Definitely some rubbing and racing up at the front of the field. Definitely a great, exciting finish after what's been a rather green flag segment almost all night long. As I mentioned with Kevin D'Elia, we are racing tomorrow night, so 4-wide action is yet to be completed for this week. Texas Motor Speedway is on tap for the 4-wide Cup Series playoffs, but they'll tackle the new version of the Texas Motor Speedway instead of the one that you've seen so far here tonight. That'll be over on the Max Speed TV YouTube channel, so check out that at 9:10 p.m. Eastern. Tomorrow night, you'll see myself, Francisco Bacchial, along with you for the ride to see exactly which drivers end up closer and which driver can follow through with Kyle Benson to lock themselves into the Championship 5. As for us on the KBueno Racing Network, you'll find us next week, December 14th, 2021. It'll be same time, same place, 9:10 p.m. Eastern, but we'll tackle the Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway. We'll see exactly what the race council decides at the Nashville Fairgrounds or the Nashville Super Speedway. But as for the moment, we look for the Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway to greet the 4-wide playoff competitors and the rest of the field next Tuesday night. So for Tyler Murray, league owner across 4-wide Racing League, for the Race Council for helping make everything possible, and on behalf of all of us here from the KBueno Racing Network, for Charlie Beyer, Francisco Bacchial, my name is Kenneth Bueno, saying so long, good night from Texas. Congratulations to Scott Healy on his first win. We'll see you next week from the Nashville Fairgrounds Series, or Nashville Fairgrounds Speedway. But until then, so long from the Lone Star State.